Mark chapter 3 verse 14 says, "Then he appointed 12, that they might be with him, and that he might send them out to preach." This verse is a clear declaration of the authority and purpose with which Christ appointed his 12 disciples. It reveals two essential aspects of their calling: to be with him and to be sent out to preach. These two elements are not merely tasks, but reflect the heart of true discipleship and the nature of God's calling on those whom he chooses for his purposes. First, Christ appointed the 12 that they might be with him. This highlights the necessity of intimacy and communion with Christ as the foundation of all ministry. Before any service or mission is fulfilled, a disciple's primary duty is to abide in the presence of the Lord. John chapter 15 verses 4 through 5 states that, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing." The 12 were not simply chosen to be emissaries. They were first called into close relationship with Christ, learning from him, being transformed by him, and receiving the necessary spiritual nourishment that would empower them for the work ahead. Second, he appointed them that he might send them out to preach. This commission underscores the purpose for which they were called: the proclamation of the gospel. The authority to preach is a direct result of their relationship with Christ, and it is for the sole purpose of proclaiming his truth to the world. This aligns with Romans chapter 10 verse 14, where Paul declares, "How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher?" The sending out of the 12 is not just an event in history, but a model for all who are called into the service of God. Preaching the gospel is not an option for believers. It is a mandate from the Lord, rooted in his sovereign will and fueled by his power. The significance of this appointment also points to the unique authority and responsibility placed upon the 12 apostles. These men were handpicked by Christ to lay the foundation of his church. Ephesians chapter 2 verse 20 says that the church is built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. This does not mean that modern-day believers hold the same apostolic office, but it does mean that all who follow Christ are called to live under his authority and proclaim his gospel to the nations. The truths from Mark chapter 3 verse 14 should be a sobering reminder of the believer's primary calling: to be with Christ and to make him known. The intimate fellowship with the Savior is the starting point of all ministry. If we neglect our time with Christ, we lose the strength and purpose for which we are sent. As John chapter 15 verses 4 through 5 make clear, without Christ, we can do nothing. This dependence on him is crucial in every aspect of life and service. Furthermore, the charge to preach the gospel is not reserved for a select few. Every believer, in some form, is sent into the world as an ambassador for Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 20 declares, "Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God were pleading through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God." We must take this commission seriously, understanding that we are entrusted with the most important message in all of history: the gospel of Jesus Christ. Just as the 12 were sent out with the authority of Christ, so too are we sent out today, proclaiming the same message of salvation. Mark chapter 3 verse 14 also shows that Christ's calling and sending are inseparable. You cannot truly serve Christ without being with him, and you cannot be with him without being sent out by him. This dual reality reflects the very essence of Christian discipleship. As followers of Christ, we must balance the intimacy of our walk with him and the urgency of our mission in the world. The calling to be with Christ and to preach his word is a high and holy one, and it should never be taken lightly. Christ did not choose the 12 because they were perfect or naturally qualified. He chose them in his sovereignty and equipped them through his presence and his word. This same principle applies to all believers today.